Hello YouTube. After what seems like an eternity, an FF14 character is getting an update. It's going to be Yda, and I'm going to talk about her, so stay tuned. I will be talking about the Sephiroth plus Yda cheese method in here, but stay tuned for that. I'm probably going to have a separate timestamp, but just know I will talk about it, and I have a take on it to maybe level some people out. But anyways, in this video, before you pull on Yda, I'll go over them and give you some things to think about before you use your limited resources. If you're not familiar with my channel, I play JP in Global consistently, and I use that knowledge, experience, and research to form my own opinions. I also give my personal plans to put some skin in the game and give players an example of how to potentially think about what they want to invest in. I want to hear your plans too though, so be sure to leave a comment with your plans for the banner and the event in the comment section. Be sure to like the video as well, subscribe to my channel while also hitting the bell so you don't miss a video. I do read all the comments, but if you want to support the channel and get access to emotes while making sure I always reply to your comment, you can become a channel member for $1. You can use the emotes in the comments and during my weekly stream, the Ranting Hour, where it's lots of fun. I talk about stuff I don't usually feel like making one-off videos for, so if you want to hear some of my takes on other one-off stuff, go check it out. A lot of fun. Link in the description for the playlist. The banner, if it aligns with JP, will be Yda with her LD, Penelo with her LD, and Radio with her EX. Yda's role is a melee damage dealer with consecutive turns and high turn rates, and she gets consecutive turns on breaks. She also has strong saps and poisons on enemy turns to get her brave back and make them have less brave on their turns, thus setting her up for more breaks on her turns. Her rework ups her damage. The plus version of skill 1, which is the only version you should be seeing, is now a triple HP attack with refund in the middle. Skill 2 got a bit more spicy, it's now 100% AoE, the move has higher turn rate but it's not instant, and her sap got improved to be an HP poison now. It's a frame debuff, so now on enemy turns, they're going to sap brave to Yda and they're going to take HP poison, like X-Death. Her LD is fairly simple. The attack itself is a humongous AoE brave plus HP, 6 HP attacks in here with refund in the middle. This does a couple things. One, it gives her a new buff, it's a standard LD buff, more output, more brave and HP damage, blah blah. This sets her skill 1 to the plus version temporarily. It gives her 1 turn evasion buff. I'm sure this is a reference to 14 that I'm not getting. Lastly, it gives her a new HP attack. This HP attack has 50% splash. It extends her active buffs by 2 turns, and when you break someone, it gives you an instant turn. She had this on EX too, but the difference here is that it queues up 2 instant turns. She only gets the 2 by breaking with her HP plus, and this is the basis of the cheese, but I'll go into that in a bit. In practice, provided you're not playing like a degenerate, if both bosses are unbroken, you can HP plus one of them, and you get an instant turn right after that. You can EX on the other, and then you'll be able to go again because that would have been the instant queued up turn. It's kind of hard to explain, but she's a better turn hogger now. Lastly, her overhead will never decrease while her LD is equipped, which just means she'll get the plus version of her EX. It hits harder and she gets another attack boost. Her high armor plus is attack, that leads brave split, which makes sense. She's got a bunch of brave hits, you want to maximize those so you can actually hit your HP caps. As for her calls, I think we already had her base call, but her LD call is notable for just doing a truckload of damage. It's a great co-op quality of life. I think it's the strongest damage LD call until Cyan, so doesn't give an effect though. Now for my analysis. Yda's strengths lie in her damage, really. I mean, she's damaged, but the HP poison and brave poison on the enemy turns makes her a lot more useful. In FF14, you always want to be doing damage, and Yda having an HP poison, which is fairly unique, adds on to that. She is fast, has a bunch of free turns, so she can take advantage of good aura effects. And because of that HP poison, she can now make more of a contribution in boss turn teams. Her brave sap is actually incredibly strong by 20% of her M brave, so this will help keep enemies brave low and set her up nicely when she needs to break them, and she'll get those consecutive turns. And again, that LD is seriously a nuke, to the point where people were calling her T for 2.0 when she first released. For her weaknesses, her damage is actually quite low if you're not getting those breaks off. Skill 1 is 3 HP attacks, skill 2 is 100% splash single HP, EX is 2 HP attacks with 20% splash, and then LD is a nuke, but if you're not getting those free turns, that's actually a pretty low damage ceiling. Free turns will help even that out. The HP poison is a nice contribution, but you might be better off just doing more damage on your turns. What I'm trying to say is without those breaks, she has a very low HP damage ceiling. You want to run teams with Yda that buff her brave damage and her attack while also running her alongside people that don't break often. You want to make sure she caps her brave hits so she can reach her HP caps. You also want her to be getting those breaks. So AoE damage dealers are people who hit hard themselves or will break, or rebreakers especially, are not good pairs for Yda at all. So for example, she'd be great friends with Lena or Selphie. Maria not so much because Maria will be keeping the enemies broken. Off-turn damages that would land breaks like Kane, Core, Yang for example would steal her breaks and also significantly decrease her damage. I think she'd be nice with Kate and Bartz though. And again, there's Yda plus Sephiroth, but I will touch on that later. As for useful fights, she will be useful in the Machina raid, where the orb is to extend buffs, because on her HP++, that gets the 2 consecutive turns, she extends her own buffs by 3 turns. Down the line, when Alphino gets his LD, and he has an HP poison on his LD, Yda will also be able to hit that orb because it's an HP poison orb. There's other sap orbs down the line, but we have so many options for those, I don't think they're worth mentioning. Beyond that, there's the Papa Limo raid, where you need to do a consecutive turn, and then on the consecutive you need to do like 400k, Gilgamesh's BT chapter, where you need to use HP attacks to up the orb. She has a good HP attack, so it could be useful. Layla's fight, where you need to dodge that random 1-turn evasion, might be able to help you. I think that's mostly it. Now to talk very briefly about the Yda plus Sephiroth thing, Ydaroth as it is called in the community, it's very degenerate. The way it works is because Sephiroth's BT sets the enemy's break to 1 each turn, Yda can consecutively break, and because it queues up 2 turns in a row, not just 1, she can go to infinity like this. Depending on your setup, I think you can hit the auto button. I don't know exactly how to do this, but I know it is possible, but then Yda will just HP plus into infinity. It's ridiculous, and she extends all her buffs. So the reason this can work in multiple fights is because as long as you're hitting the orb, then Yda is going infinitely, then you're good. So say Kane's intertwined will, for example. If Kane's in the air, Yda's getting infinite turns, and Kane's triggering after all of Yda's turns, then you're just going to hit the orb and kill it eventually. Yda's actual fight where they need to get sapped, just throw an extant friend up in the background, Yda plus Sephiroth, you're good to go. Fran's fight, you need range damage, just let Kane go again. Machina's fight, you need buff extension, which Yda does naturally, and then Snow's fight, you need ice damage, which you can just throw a curse on, call up, and you can just let him go nuts. So provided you can find the right friend unit in the right setup, this team can clear a lot of stages, and it's really disgusting. However, the caveat is that you can hit the orbs. If you can't hit the orb, it won't work, and this either due to a hole in your roster or something that's just not possible. Additionally, this method takes forever, so you just put your phone down, go watch some anime. It's pretty ugh. But that's the gist behind it. There will be someone on YouTube explaining it better than me and doing it consistently, but it won't be me because that stuff is extremely boring and degenerate. No thank you. So what are my plans? Nah, not interested. I have enough damage dealers, so I don't really need Yda. No attachment to the character, HP poison I can satisfy with X death, and I just wouldn't use her if I had her. I got better blue priorities. You can do her job just fine, but she won't be doing her job in my roster, so not interested. The temptation is there to pull for the LD calling co-op, but being real, like people say like, oh, it ends co-op so much faster, but how much time are you saving? A couple seconds per run, maybe? How much does that add up to in the long run? How much does it really benefit? Probably not that much, so I can live without her. The event itself is the Renoa moths. I think they are some kind of bug. I hate bugs. It's 2 ads, and I think the ads, either the ads or the boss buff themselves with HP regen, so you want to knock that off as soon as possible. Yda's HP poison is meant to get around that, but the HP regen is pretty thick, so you either want to dispel that or block him out with frame buffs like Caius. The actual orb is sap, +6 on Brave Poison, and +6 on HP Poison, so Yda's going to be a +12 provided she's had her debuff up. Sap orbs are a dime a dozen. We have a billion people who can hit this. Some godly non-synergy options end up being Beatrix, one because her debuff has a sap effect on it, and because she can dispel the HP regen on the boss. Also, she eats with Thunder Slash versus 3 targets. Yuffie has a sap on her LD debuff, and she will prevent the boss from buffing itself. And an X-Death BT friend, if you run him along turn stealers, the HP poison will tick the orb every time from his BT effect, so you can actually no-turn it, provided you have X-Death BT going. The peak degenerate strategy would be run Orin LD, and then you drop the LD debuff for the full effect, you swap in an X-Death friend, have him BT, Sephiroth BT as well, and you could swap the order of the BTs, like Sephiroth friend or X-Death friend, and then let Yda go nuts until the boss dies. Maybe throw Kane in the background or something. Otherwise, this fight's kind of just a pushover. My JP team was Lena, Beatrix, and Zidane. I used Zidane to delete the ads and let the main boss get a turn. Lena kept us safe from debuffs, and Beatrix dispelled the enemy buffs. It was pretty smooth, provided I paid attention and didn't let the orb go off. In GL, I have a couple fun runs in mind. I want to try Zac, Maria, my favorite new pairing, and Beatrix, and then I also want to try something like Jack, Lena, and Yuffie. I'm having so much fun with Maria, y'all. I can't, it's hard to go back to Barret. I don't know, the runs might be dead, I don't know. Lastly, my pull advice is not for people who already decided, just people on the fence, some things to think about. I think if you're really hyped for the cheese and you're not very good at the game, you're like, oh, this will help me beat content, it's just kicking the can down the road. If you're bad, you need to learn how to play the game, get a better roster, and not rely on these methods to get through things. But if you don't care, don't let me stop you. Go ahead and maybe do it for a while, but you might get bored. Like, for real, you need to be a super degenerate to want to consistently do Yda plus Sephiroth on fights. Especially if you're struggling and you need this kind of thing to beat content, you probably have the holes in your roster that you're not going to know how to fill in when you can't hit the orb and you think you can just cheese through it. It's not that simple, so be warned. Other than that, I don't think Yda's that great. If you need melee damage, you're probably better off waiting a month for Machina. That Machina plus Pain banner is godly. Brave Poison is a niche that is spread out between so much of the roster. HP Poison, you don't really need that aside from a couple fights, and it will be on banner if you desperately need it. And Yda's got a pretty low floor for her damage if you're not willing to optimize her breaks, which outside of Yda plus Sephiroth isn't that great. I think most of the player base is probably better off skipping, and she's not even worth it for the LD call. It does a lot of damage, but it's not really saving you that much time in reality. Don't get swayed by the cheese. Learn the game, understand what's going on, etc. She is about to rerun with the C90 and JP, and who knows how that will go, but we don't pull for characters in the future, we pull for them now, because we play the game now, not later. But that's all I got. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you pulling, are you not pulling? What do you think about the event, etc. Sephiroth Cheese, blah, blah, blah. I'll catch you guys on the event, and yeah, have a great day. See you later. Like, comment, subscribe, all that garbage. You know what it is.